Alright, let's go for broke by creating a whole mess of controls. Let's first take a look at it in action. We'll start the sketch, and there it is running. It tells us to go to this particular address, which I already have a bookmark for, and now the web server has delivered to the browser a web page with all of the controls. Let's start the animation. We can stop the animation, and we can clear the animation. We can start it up again. Here's a checkbox, and when we turn it on, we go into color. And when we can, here's a radio button group, and we can choose green and rainbow. We can also change with a drop down. We can change to a small size circle, and we can change to a large size circle, and we can publish a title, and there we have the BRC controls. And finally, we can actually increase the speed of the animation and decrease the speed of the animation by changing the frame rate. Okay, so let's turn this off and take a look at the individual pieces. Here is the template file, which actually shows you everything that we typed to create the controls down here. You've already seen how to create the three buttons, start, stop, and clear up here. The next item we can see down here is the color checkbox. And this is how to create a color checkbox. We've named the color checkbox coloring. That's its ID. But as a label, visually, we use the word color ? That will appear next to it. When the checkbox is checked, the browser will send the string coloring equals true to the sketch, and when it is unchecked, coloring equals false. Next in line, we have the range or slider. We've called it speed, and we indicate that we want to see the words frames per second down here, and here are the limits of that particular slider. Min of 10, max of 100, step size of 5, and current value or startup value of 10. Here's the group, the radio buttons group called colors, and here are the three colors, three radio buttons, and here's what the browser shows, but this is actually what the browser sends to the sketch. It will send colors equals random, random in uppercase, to the sketch when that particular button is selected. Here's the drop down, and the drop down also consists of three options, and in this case what the browser sends, size equals S, is not exactly the same as what you see. You see the word small. And actually we can select which one at startup is actually selected, just like we can select which one at startup of the radio buttons is selected. Finally, we have the text box with a label called the title. Okay, now we're going to go on to the code that we have to write. Alright, let's take a look at the code that we have to write, of course, to retrieve the messages that are coming in and acting on them. So we already saw that we needed a running variable here to indicate whether the animation is running or not. We also need a coloring variable to indicate whether we should be coloring or painting the circles in white. So we see that we've turned on show messages so that we can see the messages come by here in the console as they are being sent. And BRC turns our entire system on, and you should be familiar with this code already from the previous demo. We obtain the next item that came in, if any, and find its name. If the name is start, then we turn running to true, and if the name is stop, we turn running to false, and that will control the starting and stopping of the animation. And clear, of course, just generates the background if the clear button was pressed. Coloring is a checkbox, and therefore it is actually sending a real message to us. Coloring, the word coloring equals the word true, and if the incoming word is coloring, then let's find its value, the value that it sent. If the value that it sent was true, we'll turn our internal Boolean variable to true, otherwise turn it to false. And this is really a remarkably simple line. If the browser sent the word speed equals some number, that number is a string, then we simply retrieve that number. That will be the value of the speed message, turn it into an integer, set it and give it the frame rate to control the speed of the animation itself. So all these two lines actually along with these lines, very simple way to actually controlling the speed of your animation. And here is something familiar. If we're not running, we don't paint anything. Let's take a look at our radio group called coloring, and if the word coloring came in, then this is turns out to be true, and let's check the color. If the color equals random, then we generate a random color, otherwise red and otherwise green. And if coloring is not on, we use white. Here comes size. If size is equal to S, then we have a small size. Otherwise, if it's M, a medium size and a large size. And finally, if our name is a title, that will have set the title value. We can take a look at that title, the value of that title, and simply paint that title onto the display. Now I'd like to introduce monitors, which are not controls at all, but a cool feature that is enabled by the fact that we're doing communications between the browser and the sketch. And here are the monitors themselves. Down here in the lower right, X mouse and Y mouse, and you can probably guess what they do. We'll turn the sketch on. And now if we watch both where my cursor is inside the sketch at the same time as you're watching these two monitors, they show you the coordinates of the mouse as the mouse actually moves in real time from one end of the sketch to the other. The sketch is 500 by 500, and we're very close to now the maximum X and Y. So how is this done? Let me turn that off. Well, first of all, we have to create the monitors in the browser. And here we are. We ask for them. Here's a monitor called X and a monitor called Y, and what they will be visually shown as X mouse and Y mouse down here in the browser itself. Of course, X and Y are not special in any way. You could have called them Fred and George. What happens is that every time the draw function is called inside the browser, we actually set this variable with a name called X to the value of the X coordinate of the mouse and Y to the value of the Y coordinate of the mouse, and that's remembered by the sketch, and given that for those situations where in fact we've asked for monitors to appear in our browser now understands that it has a little bit more work to do, and 4 times a second the browser will poll the sketch asking for the value of X and the value of Y, and we'll print them in the boxes. So 4 times a second these objects are updated. You can send numerical information like mouse X, mouse Y. You can send integers, you can send floating points, you can even send words, and they will be updated in real time. It's a relatively nice feature that you can actually look into your the internal workings of your sketch as it is working, as the animations are occurring, and actually obtain information from it. And so here are the steps to create or modify your sketch with these controls. Either create or modify an existing template file into which you'll indicate what controls or monitors you would like. Step 2, upload it to the BRC factory site and ask for the modification, and it will immediately give you the brcutilities.pde file to download. Quick note here, download that file by its exact name. Sometimes browsers would like to add a number or a space to the end of the file name. Don't allow that. Make sure that the name is retained exactly, brcutilities.pde. Any file with a space in it is not one that processing environment likes. Then, of course, modify your processing code to actually interpret the incoming messages from the browser as the browser sends control messages to you. Start your sketch and ask your browser to go to this particular address, 127.0.0.1 with 10,002 port, or another choice of port, which you can actually do in the template file if there's a conflict. And then you're up and running. This ends the demo of the BRC system for creating controls and monitors that interact with processing animations. Be sure to go to the BRC site to find the latest documentation and the link, of course, to the BRC factory site and copies of the files used in these demos that you can download and play with, and other links. Thank you for watching.